Okay, folks, I thought I'd just give a short commentary on the ongoing feud among all of these different players now. You got Ethan Van Sciver, you got Eric July, you got Yellow Flash now, and you've got John Dillard, unfortunately, entering the mix. And apparently there was a business arrangement that was made between Yellow Flash and John Dillard that they would create a comic book together, and Yellow Flash would maintain 60% ownership, and John Dillard, who's the artist, would maintain 40% ownership. And all of the money that was going to come to John Dillard and Yellow Flash would come at the back end. So they were going to create this entire comic and then publish it, and then whatever the revenues were, it was going to be split 60-40. That's pretty much the idea that I've got of what the business deal was. Now, of course, that means John Dillard is essentially making this book for free with the expectation that the money will all come at the back end. It almost reminds me of when actors get on a movie, and sometimes they're asked, do you want a flat salary, or a flat fee, or do you want points? You know, do you want a percentage of the profits? And sometimes they'll take a flat fee, sometimes they'll take points, sometimes they don't really get a choice, depending on, whether they're up and coming or not. But that is basically the guarantee of, you could get paid, or you could get really, really paid if the movie does well. Same thing is going on in this deal between Yellow Flash and John Dillard. Now, John Dillard, unfortunately, got a rough deal this past few months, and he's fallen on hard times. Money is tight, extremely tight. Apparently, the kids went without Christmas gifts, which is the worst thing ever, except for, I don't know, Israel and Gaza are in a war right now. So you've got John Dillard, who's fallen on some hard times. Yellow Flash has not apparently finished his portion of the book, or they are not yet ready to go to production, and so none of that money that Dillard is expecting is forthcoming so far. And Ethan Van Sciver went out on an absolute tear, and of course, Yellow Flash did some rough trade on Ethan Van Sciver just recently, so there is some bad blood between the two of them. And Ethan is basically using this latest set of circumstances that John Dillard made public recently to go after Yellow Flash somewhat. And so he was absolutely excoriating Yellow Flash on, having made this deal with John Dillard, saying, you can't do these kinds of things. This is exploitative. This is blah, 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 blah. And all the while I'm thinking that, Dillard's a grown man. He's an adult. He has the right, if he wants, to enter into business deals like this. It is not Yellow Flash's responsibility to look at John Dillard and say, okay, I'm going to evaluate your financial situation as if you don't know what your money state is. And I'm going to decide for you whether you're capable of handling a business deal like this, where you're getting no money up front and all the money at the back end. Yeah, that's not Yellow Flash's job. Yellow Flash's job is to look after Yellow Flash, and Dillard can look after Dillard. Now, Dillard, for some reason, thought, yeah, I can basically work for free for a year or so, or however long this book is going to take, because, that's never really guaranteed. And then I will be able to reap all of these humongous profits at the back end. That's a good deal by me. I'm going to go for it. Now, I think there probably was room for some amount of negotiation. I mean, maybe Yellow Flash had said, look, this is the only deal that I can offer because I don't have any money up front. All of the money I'm expecting from this is at the back end. So this is basically a labor of love. You can either join me in it with the expectation of profit at the back end or not. And it was Dillard's call to say yes or no. What I think Dillard probably should have done, but again, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, which is exactly what I'm saying. Yellow Flash really had no obligation to do it, but maybe negotiate some sort of blended deal where it's like, okay, look, I want to get at least a little bit of a page rate so that I know I've got enough for emergencies or something, and then I'll take maybe a reduced percentage, then not 40%, but maybe 30%. But that's just me talking out of my ass. I don't know what it is that John Dillard had in reserves. I mean, for all I know, he had a huge amount of savings, and this crisis that he's gone through just recently just burned through it completely unexpected, completely out of the blue. So what how are we supposed to, us, with our 2020 hindsight, go back and look at that deal and say, oh no, Dillard should never have made that deal? And what really grates on me is how EVS was pointing the finger at Yellow Flash almost exclusively and saying Yellow Flash had no right to offer such a deal. That is somehow exploitative. I'm like, look, these are two men negotiating, and it's their business. It's not upon us to say what this person should have offered and what this person should have accepted. So I am basically looking at things from the perspective of, look, two people can enter into whatever kind of business arrangement they want. This is what they settled on. It's not upon us to judge them on account of the circumstances that one fell into. I mean, it is tragic that, Dillard's not doing very well right now. But at the same time, he's also not complaining, and he's not blaming Yellow Flash. He's like, look, I made a business deal, and that's what the deal is, and I'm just doing what I can. So it isn't on us to point the finger at Yellow Flash. Now, on the flip side, there is, Eric July has now chimed in saying, whatever these people want to do as far as their business arrangements go, that's great, Now, I think one of the things that Ethan Van Sciver's accused Eric July of doing of recent is kind of poo-pooing the whole crowdfunding venture, because it's, this is a venture where people are, you're taking your money and they're not giving you a book in return, because Ethan Van Sciver himself was late on Cyberfrog by a number of years. He was late on Rainbow the Brute by a number of years. I mean, there's a lot of lateness involved. Now, the common excuse is, but I'm bringing quality to the table. But it's like, you could, again, this is another example of a business agreement among adults. Ethan Van Sciver is saying, I will take your money and I will make you a comic book eventually. And it is upon the crowdfunders to say, that's okay with us. So every one of us who has backed a deal with Ethan Van Sciver has basically said, take as long as you need. Because we have no control over him. We have no control over what he does with the money. We are basically going on faith that he's going to give us a product in some reasonable amount of time, or even some unreasonable amount of time, but that it's going to be a good product and hopefully worth the wait. So, given that we're all entering into these voluntary business dealings, what ought to be done now? I can't really say, because I can't speak for Yellow Flash. I can't speak for Dillard. I can't speak for either of them. Really, it's between the two of them what they want to do. I know that Yellow Flash, by his admission, has offered to help Dillard in some cases, and I think Dillard has refused that help, and for what reasons, I know not. Maybe he's getting help from other sources. Maybe he's feeling like, well, I don't want to, renegotiate this deal. This deal is still a good deal to me. I'm really hoping for a big payoff. There could be a potential for some renegotiation, and that maybe if Yellow Flash were to decide, I don't like the position that Dillard's in. I want to talk to him and say, how about, I crowdfund this project that we're working on? Because obviously you're in a state where you need money, and now that your plight is known, that would give people even bigger incentive to try and crowdfund us to support this project. And why not go ahead and, I realize this is a little bit manipulative, but let's take advantage of your bad circumstances and use that to crowdfund this book. This book is not just a labor of love. You're also actually supporting John Dillard in his plight, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably milk that for all it's worth. I mean, maybe that's not the way that they want to go. And that's why I'm saying it's really up to the two of them what they decide. Yellow Flash could say, well, how about I drop your percentage to 30%, and then your page rate will be this, and I will pay you so much out of the crowdfunded receipts for the work that you've done so far and for the work that you're going to do in the future. Maybe that'd be acceptable to him. Maybe Yellow Flash would say, well, we'll take in the crowdfunding, and as an advance on the profits that are going to be coming in, I will give you this much money so that you can support yourself. And then, as the money actually comes in from the book, then your advance will be deducted from that before you start actually seeing the rest of the profits from that. That may be something amenable to them as well. Really, what it comes down to is it's up to them. And I do admire Ethan Van Sciver for pointing out that deals like this are high risk. And Eric July, on the other hand, has pointed out that Them's the breaks of ownership. When you are the owner, you are taking risk. So, all of the risk is being assumed by all of the owners. And one of the risks that John Dillard assumed is that if this project gets delayed and if he should fall on hard times, he's going to have a hard time of it. And that is the risk of entrepreneurship. Now, on Ethan's part, he's doing a good service by bringing to our attention that, hey, if you are going to be working for a creator, understand your own financial situation. Know what it is that you are capable of sustaining. Know if you've got enough income as it is now to keep yourself going if you are to accept one of these deals. I'm doing a couple of work for hire things for myself that I'm working for another person, writing a couple of stories. Written one, I've got another one on the way. I'm not getting paid anything for these stories. And the reason is I got a job. So why is it that I'm going to try and take more money from this person who probably doesn't have a tremendous amount himself? Instead, I'm going to give him the opportunity to get my name out there. And, hopefully people will look at my stories and say, hey, these are good quality stories. And they'll want to hire me for more. And at that point, I can start charging for my work. Right now, I just like to get my name out the door and in print. So at this point, maybe he and I will renegotiate something at some point in the future. But right now, everything's good because I know that I have the income and I have the savings where I don't need to worry about things not going through. If this project never happens, I'm fine. I'm taken care of. So that is the kind of position that I would hope somebody who is a up-and-coming artist, or even an established artist, like I think Dillard is, to say, if things go bad, I'm covered. And therefore, I can freely enter into a business arrangement like this, and I'm completely fine with everything that's all of the financial details. Ethan is good to point out that, look, yes, make that calculation first. You have to make sure you are taken care of before you enter into a risky venture like this. You don't want, your family to suffer, yourself to suffer just because you thought of the big dollar signs in the future and you weren't thinking of the present day. But was Dillard doing that at the time that he accepted the deal? I don't want to make that kind of assessment, because I have no idea what his financial situation was at the time. I don't know how he thinks about money. I don't know where his priorities are, okay? That's not for me to say. Now, on Eric July's part, now he's looking at it and saying, there's opportunity to be found in those kinds of deals. But at the same time, like Ethan is saying, you gotta weigh that against the possibility that this whole thing might fall through. And that's where things like crowdfunding could come in. Yes, crowdfunding, let me explain something about how Eric July did things. He built up capital for himself. He built up I think it was $300,000 of his own money, his own savings, that he saved up over time from his other business ventures, like Backwards, like The Blaze, like all of his other, like his website, all of his other ventures that he was involved in. He built up $300,000 of capital, and he was able to put that into paying artists, paying his colorist, paying his letterer, getting the warehouse, doing all the stuff needed in order to get Rippaverse off the ground. Not everybody has that kind of capital. And that's where crowdfunding comes in. That's where you can establish your capital from your backers up front with the promise to your backers that you will produce this product, you will get it out to them. So it is their money that makes it possible for you to create this product, and you give them, the rewards of their backing, and then at the same time, you can take your product and sell it in perpetuity. Make multiple printings, go and sell it in comic shops, go and sell it on eBay. You can continually profit from the rewards of your labors and their capital, your backers' capital. Maybe that's something that Yellow Flash should have considered in the beginning. Maybe that's something that Yellow Flash should consider now. But that's up to him. That's up to his business partner, Dillard. That's not up to us. So really, the best thing that we can all do is just understand all of the options that are available out there to all of the comic book creators who are out there, and then just say, okay, to each his own. And that's where Eric July has it right, saying, look, figure out what business option is best for you. Understand the risks that you're taking, and then make your decision based on the risk-reward calculation. That's all any of us can do. That's all, whether you're making a stock trade, whether you're thinking about taking a new job, whether you're thinking about moving to a new state, the whole thing has to be about what is it that I'm capable of handling? How can I suffer the losses? How can I, what is the potential reward? We all have to do that balancing act, and we all have to do it for ourselves. So I would say, let's just keep our noses out of other people's business. Let them enter into the business agreements that they find acceptable to them. But let's sound the horn of caution to all of those coming into the business and thinking, with stars in their eyes, ooh, I'm going to get those big back-end profits, when you might want to make sure that the first thing you're able to do is put food on the table. Because ultimately, you got to eat. So that's my say on the matter. Feel free to vent your opinions in the comments. Good Lord, everybody's venting their opinions online, including me now. So thank you for watching. I'm Mike Partika. Please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you later.